When you think of the deadliest rifle on Earth, you probably think American firepower. But the truth is far more surprising. From global battlefields to guerrilla wars, 3 rifles in particular have dominated the fight, racking up body counts and leaving a permanent mark on world history. These aren't just tools of war, they are symbols of power, revolution, and devastation. On today's episode of the Infographics Show, we're revealing why the deadliest rifle isn't American. The first shots cracked across the frozen Ukrainian steppes in February 2022, and within hours, the world bore witness to the latest evolution of the most famous rifle family in history. It didn't take long before Russian troops pushed through Kharkiv's industrial outskirts carrying a rifle that looked instantly familiar. Yet it wasn't the classic AK-47 that had armed rebels and armies for over 70 years. This was its deadlier successor, a weapon designed to update an icon of warfare while keeping its reputation for reliability intact. This was the AK-12's defining moment. Its polymer furniture stood out against the rubble, the modular rail systems carrying optics that earlier generations of Russian soldiers could never have imagined. The AK-12 carries the weight of 70 years of history. If the AK-47 was the iPhone of assault rifles, simple, reliable, and revolutionary, then the AK-12 is an iPhone 14. Sure, it's the same core DNA, but with all the modern bells and whistles that your tech-savvy soldier demands in 2025. On the surface, the AK-12 doesn't look too different from its forebear, but looks can be deceiving. Russian engineers had actually been tinkering with prototypes of the rifle since 2012, but the Ukraine war flipped the Russian military's R&D department into overdrive. Combat reports flooded back to Kalashnikov Concern's headquarters in Ishevsk with unprecedented speed, and not all of them were good. The feedback loop was, well, brutal for such a highly anticipated weapons platform. Soldiers complained that the dust cover, the part that's supposed to keep the dirt out of the rifle's guts, had a fatal flaw. When it was removed for cleaning, then reinstalled, the rifle lost its zero. That meant that this carefully sighted weapon was now shooting blind. Worse still, the selector switch had a design defect that turned deadly under stress. Push it too far down, which was easy to do with gloved hands in combat, and it would jam against the pistol grip, partially blocking the trigger. Ukrainian forces captured multiple AK-12s with selector switches cranked so far down they sat nearly perpendicular to the receiver. Within months, the legendary Russian firearm manufacturer unveiled an upgraded AK-12 with modifications based on the weapon's use in the war in Ukraine. The improvement cycle between battlefield and factory had compressed from years to months, driven by the desperate mathematics of survival. But every rifle tells a story of the culture that built it. Russian weapons traditionally favor reliability over precision, or so history would have us believe. Throw them in the mud, freeze them solid, drag them through the sand, and they'll still fire. The AK-47 was the epitome of resilient engineering, forged in the vastness of the Eurasian steppes and tailored to the brutal logic of mass warfare. While Kalashnikov tinkered with their new AK, 3,000 miles southwest, Israeli engineers were solving an entirely different problem. After years of urban warfare, the Israeli Defense Forces had long ago learned that urban warfare demanded a different kind of weapon entirely. Where space was measured in inches, not miles, precision mattered more than volume or weight of fire. In 2009, the IDF made a decision that would fundamentally change how their soldiers fought. They phased out their trusty M16s and M4s with something called the Tavor X95. Unlike the longer M4 and AK-47, the Tavor was compact, accurate, and purpose-built for performance in tight urban environments. The Tavor X95 represented 25 years of combat lessons, every design choice shaped by the realities of close-quarters fighting. The weapon uses what engineers call a bullpup design, which places the rifle's operating system behind the trigger rather than in front of it. This layout delivers the full power of a standard rifle while cutting the overall length dramatically, up to a foot shorter than an M4 with its stock extended. Those saved inches make all the difference in urban warfare. With a traditional rifle, a 14.5-inch barrel often gives away a soldier's position before they can acquire a target. The Tavor's 13-inch barrel avoids that problem, delivering the same accuracy and firepower while allowing soldiers to clear corners quickly and efficiently. But while Kalashnikov scrambled to patch the AK-12's problems in months, the IDF had 4 years, 2009 to 2013, to run the world's deadliest beta test. Israeli Special Forces carried prototype Tavors on live counterterrorism missions, sending feedback that came back written in blood and measured in lives saved. Meanwhile, 8,000 miles east, along the disputed Himalayan border, Chinese and Indian troops still face each other across lines marked by stones and bitter memories. It was here the People's Liberation Army quietly began fielding its contestant for the most ambitious rifle yet, the QBZ-191. China's new weapon ironically emerged from decades of frustration with their previous bullpup design. Their soldiers hated the QBZ-95 with a passion, and so development on a replacement started around 2014, right around the time Beijing decided it didn't need to buy American anymore. The rifle debuted at China's 2019 military parade, but parades don't prove combat effectiveness. What makes the QBZ-191 significant is that China didn't just build one rifle. They went ahead and built an entire weapons family. Standard rifle, carbine, marksman variant, even a shotgun. The rifle's modularity is deliberate, allowing Chinese infantry squads to tailor their loadouts to specific mission requirements. Each of these rifles are trying to solve the same basic problem, but their countries approach the problem from completely different angles. Russia took the evolutionary path. The AK-12 was designed to modernize the legendary Kalashnikov platform, while preserving its battlefield-proven reliability. Russian doctrine has always prioritized mass production and durability over precision engineering. The AK-12 continues that tradition. It's the same core design, just upgraded with modern materials and rail systems for optics. It's a lot like upgrading an old Nokia brick phone to a smartphone, but keeping the same indestructible build quality. Israel took a surgical approach. The Tavor is expensive, precisely engineered and built for very specific conditions. While Russia asked, how do we make our proven design better, Israel asked, what do our soldiers actually need? China took the independence route. The QBZ-191 is less about building a better rifle and more a statement proving China can innovate rather than copy. An entire weapons family with their own proprietary ammunition certainly makes that statement. The question is, which philosophy actually wins firefights? This is where cultural differences really matter. Russian military doctrine assumes that soldiers might not be particularly well-trained or motivated, so weapons need to be soldier-proof. Or should that be conscript-proof? Israeli doctrine assumes highly motivated, well-trained troops who will take care of their equipment and use it properly. Chinese doctrine is still evolving and state-protected, but it seems to assume that technological and numerical superiority can compensate for other factors. The manufacturing stories behind these rifles reveal different national priorities too. Russia builds weapons like they're preparing for World War III tomorrow. They are simple, proven designs that can be mass-produced quickly. Israel builds weapons like they're preparing for the next counterterrorism operation. These are sophisticated designs that require precision manufacturing and careful quality control. China builds weapons like they're trying to prove they belong in the same league as everyone else. So sure, it's an ambitious design that showcases domestic technological capabilities. But like a lot of other things in the Chinese military, it sorta screams, hey, look at me! Did Russia's AK modernization gamble actually play out? The numbers tell a fascinating story. During 2021 alone, Russian factories reportedly churned out tens of thousands of AK-12s. It was the same heavy industrial techniques that had kept the Soviet weapons flowing during World War II. This mass production was designed to function even when supply chains collapsed and factories needed to operate under wartime stress, which has now paid dividends. What set the AK-12 apart from most modern rifles is its ammunition flexibility, a feature that reveals Russian strategic thinking. The weapon chambers both traditional 7.62 by 39mm cartridges and the newer 5.45 by 39mm rounds, allowing commanders to adapt to whatever ammunition stockpile they can access. Units operating near old Soviet weapons caches could burn through the 7.62mm cartridges. Meanwhile, formations with modern logistics employed the higher velocity 5.45mm ammunition for enhanced range and accuracy. This dual capability reflects a form of battlefield redundancy that stems from a military that understands acutely how ammunition shortages can determine battle outcomes. The rifle's modular design is a massive upgrade over a traditional AK-47, promising tactical flexibility. Reconnaissance teams could mount different optics packages than assault troops, optimizing each rifle for its intended role. But this flexibility came with a hidden cost that revealed itself in combat. Poorly trained conscripts struggled with the configuration complexity, leading Russian commanders to abandon customization in favor of standardized setups. The military had built a sophisticated system for an army that wasn't equipped to use it with sophistication. Combat testing from Ukraine revealed the AK-12's true operational parameters in ways no peacetime testing could replicate. The rifle functioned reliably across a large temperature range, from -58 degrees Fahrenheit in winter trenches to 122 degrees Fahrenheit in burning cities. It continued operating after mud immersion, chemical contamination, and the kind of abuse that would disable more precision-oriented Western weapons. Even enemy forces recognized its capabilities. Captured AK-12s became trophy weapons among Ukrainian soldiers, regularly appearing on social media as symbols of successful engagements. The AK-12 succeeds precisely because it doesn't try to be everything to everyone. It's a mass-producible, orc-proof rifle that prioritizes function over form and reliability over precision. The question then shouldn't be whether it's the world's most advanced weapon. It's whether Russia's philosophy of good enough for anyone can compete with Israel's perfect for specialists and China's better than everyone. Israel took the opposite approach, building a weapon that assumed their soldiers were elite operators who would push equipment to its absolute limits. The Tavor development program launched in 1991, but the story gets more complex than a simple development timeline suggests. The original Tavor, TAR-21, became the official IDF rifle by November 2001, following rigorous testing that included evaluation by 2 IDF brigades between November 2001 and March 2002. But Israel wasn't finished perfecting the concept. By 2009, they had settled on the Tavor X95, initially called the Micro Tavor. What made the Tavor revolutionary was not just its bullpup design, but the unprecedented integration of military psychology into weapons engineering. Israeli military psychologists collaborated with weapons designers, studying how soldiers function under extreme stress and shaping controls that stayed intuitive even under tunnel vision and degraded motor skills. The result was full ambidextrous operation and control placement optimized for soldiers operating under life or death pressure. No other military had ever applied this level of psychological analysis to small arms design. The testing methodology revealed Israel's unique approach to weapons development. Instead of laboratory simulations, prototype Tavors were carried by special forces operators during actual counterterrorism missions across the Middle East. Feedback showed soldiers needed rifles that could switch instantly between roles. They needed a weapon that could deliver precision shots at 1,000 feet, yet remain effective in point-blank encounters inside apartment stairwells. It also had to maintain accuracy while enduring impacts during rapid urban movement. But even Israel's precision engineering couldn't escape the evolution of military doctrine. Recent developments show Israel's frontline infantry units transitioning back to M4s, with Tavors moving to reserve brigades. The shift suggests that specialized weapons, no matter how perfectly designed for specific scenarios, must adapt when those scenarios change. The Tavor succeeded brilliantly at solving the problems of urban warfare in the 2000s, but modern conflict continues evolving faster than any single weapon platform can follow. And as many Western militaries realized, reloading a bullpup while taking fire in an urban environment is a lot harder than it sounds. Just ask the Chinese. They didn't have any experience with this specific issue per se, but enough of their soldiers complained about their older bullpup configuration that they decided to start building the next generation QBZ entirely from scratch. The QBZ had been widely criticized by Chinese soldiers for ergonomic deficiencies and maintenance complications. The QBZ-191's conventional magazine forward layout reflected extensive analysis of Western small arms systems combined with Chinese manufacturing capabilities and strategic requirements. The most revealing aspect of the QBZ-191 program was China's decision to develop entirely new ammunition. The 5.8 by 42mm DVC-12 cartridge was engineered specifically for the QBZ-191 rifle family. Its advanced projectile design was intended to outperform existing NATO and Russian rounds against modern body armor. Yet, instead of relying on proven ammunition tested in combat, China gambled on a cartridge that existed in a logistics bubble of one. Chinese military reports later emphasized the round's strong reliability and accuracy, particularly in high-altitude environments where thinner air affects both ballistics and weapon function. The QBZ-191's integration with Chinese military communications and targeting systems reflected broader modernization efforts. Weapon-mounted electronics were designed to interface seamlessly with individual soldier equipment and unit-level command networks. These three rifles, Russian, Israeli, and Chinese, represented fundamentally different approaches to the same basic challenge: how to provide individual soldiers with the tools necessary to survive and prevail in armed conflict. So, which rifle actually deserves the title of Deadliest on Earth? To answer that question, let's imagine a scenario that puts all three design philosophies to the ultimate test. The year is 2026, and somewhere in the high Alps, wind howls through the narrow stone alleys of a ghost village buried beneath 2 feet of alpine powder. 3 elite squads, 1 Russian, 1 Israeli, 1 Chinese, were inserted at dawn. The rules of engagement were simple: no drones, no artillery, no air support. The squads had to engage each other with basic infantry tactics and 3 of the most advanced rifles on the planet. The Russians posted up in a chapel. Muffled behind the pews in stained glass, Sergeant Anton's fire team watched the tree line with iron discipline. He had a hunch the enemy would come from that direction, but he wasn't positive. His AK-12 carried only a red dot sight, standard for mass-issued rifles. At long range, it was guesswork. But when Anton spotted a flicker on the tree line, reliability mattered more than precision. He fired, trusting in a rifle built to keep working no matter the cold. His bursts cracked through the storm, muzzle flash lighting the chapel. It wasn't elegant shooting, but the AK-12 wasn't built for elegance. It was built to put rounds downrange until something fell. The Israelis surged through a bakery, Tavors tight under their arms. Every corner cleared in seconds, every movement rehearsed. The rifles fit the squad like surgical tools, compact, balanced, built for exactly this kind of fighting. Private Matan ducked under a beam and stitched precise 5.56 fire through a shutter. Where the AK-12 relied on volume, the Tavor answered with economy. 1 shot, 1 body down. But the Israelis had no long-range eyes, no overwatch, and that would cost them. From the ridge, Zhao's squad swept the rooftops through 3x optics, a standard-issue advantage. The QBZ-191s gave them what neither the Russians nor the Israelis had: range, modularity, and clear eyes on the whole battlefield. The squad's marksman squeezed off a controlled shot. 1 Russian collapsed instantly, proof that optics and accuracy beat guesswork. A second later, return fire chewed through a tree trunk beside them. Tavor fire from a flank they hadn't cleared. The Tavor team burst into a house, met instantly by Russian rounds punching through the wooden walls. Splinters erupted, 1 Israeli down, his rifle skittering away. But Eli grabbed the sling, flipped the weapon vertical, and fired blind down the stairwell. The bullpup's recoil stayed low. The last Russian in the building was caught between bursts trying to rock a fresh mag into his AK-12. Too slow. The Tavor wins the room. But outside, on the ridge, the QBZ started to show their dominance. With their optics and tight shot grouping, the Chinese team laid down suppressive fire the other squads couldn't match. The AK-12s fired back, but their shot bursts were guessed in the fog. The Tavors were perfect indoors, less so here. The Israelis ducked behind a collapsed wagon as bark and stone exploded above their heads. 1 tried to return fire and missed high. Then came the moment that cranked up the intensity of the whole operation. A Chinese rifleman swapped out to a 75-round drum, dropped prone behind a snowbank, and opened up. It sustained fire accurately and controlled, and pinned the Russian fire team behind a stone. The Russian squad had run dry. No thermal, no suppressors. The AK-12s had taken a beating. Ice now clogged 1 chamber, causing worsening reload timing. 1 trooper stripped the bolt, bare fingers sticking to the cold metal. Anton waved them back. They needed to move now, but it was too late. The QBZ-191s pushed down the hill. The fire team formation was fluid, and the optics let them own the angles. Even through wind-blown snow and fog, their silhouettes were stable, rounds cracked with precision. The last Israeli fought alone in an attic. His Tavor was perfect for the room, compact, devastating, surgical. But when the Chinese squad surged in with numbers, optics, and coordination, even precision had its limits. But then came the second and the third, and the room went quiet. The AK-12s endured but ran dry. The Tavors mastered interiors but faltered in open ground. The QBZ-191s adapted, dominating every range. In this village, adaptability beat endurance and precision. But the QBZ-191 had no blind spots. They cleared buildings, pinned ridgelines, and lasered targets across rooftops. The rifle's modular family, DMR, carbine, standard, all sharing parts, optics, and controls, turned a squad into a web of interchangeable threats. But as the Chinese exfiltrated, a glint caught the dying sunlight from a distant rooftop. Through his scope, an American Special Operations sniper settled behind a rifle that could be seen as the culmination of all 3 nations' design philosophies, the XM7, now officially designated the M7. The 6.8 by 51mm cartridge chambered in that distinctly American rifle carries more energy than any of the weapons we discussed today. More importantly, it represents the US military's first fundamental departure from the 5.56mm NATO round in half a century. It is a technological leap that makes today's deadliest rifle competition seem suddenly quaint. And the M7 is modular too. You can change the barrels, the calibers, and configurations quickly. An entire weapons ecosystem in one chassis. The QBZ may have won this theoretical battle, but the next revolution in infantry weapons is already taking aim. And that's a story for another day, when we'll discover whether American innovation can reclaim the title of the deadliest rifle on Earth. Modern weapons can be so destructive they are banned worldwide, but ancient history had its own terrifying inventions. Watch insane ancient superweapons you never knew actually existed, or click on this video instead.